Grab your coffee, everyone, because we need to have an emergency talk. All right, so I don't know what's going on, but apparently somebody is putting out videos, or maybe there's a news article, or I don't know exactly what's going on, but I have received this morning alone 7 text messages from past clients, people that were on the fence, people that are thinking about looking, people that want to jump into the real estate market in Florida. 7 text messages right here saying that there's somebody out there who's letting everybody know that the Naples market and Tampa as well is going to fall apart by 50%, to the tune of 50%. 50%. Think about that. So that means that $500,000 house that you've had your eye on, you're going to be able to buy for $250,000. That $1 million condo with a beautiful view of the Gulf of Mexico, you're going to be able to buy for $500,000. Does that sound right? Let's bring this down. We've got to bring this down to a point of reasonable. Now listen, some of you give me a lot of heat and say that I'm like a sky is falling kind of person, which I am not. Anyone that works with me knows this, but reality is reality and truth is truth, and we have to make sure that we're lining these two things up. Because if you make a decision out of emotion and you knee jerk and you don't sort of think through things, it's very easy to fall prey to some of that screaming and yelling. And you can always find data that would lend itself to 50%. I'm going to use my favorite condo community that I mention all the time, which is Bonita National. So Bonita National went up very quickly and it came down just as fast. So there's a lot of people sitting with what they call golfing condominiums. They're little 2-bedroom, 2-bath, cute little units. They're all identical. You can't really do too much to make any one better than the other. They all have fabulous views. So it's very, very hard to say that Unit X is better than Unit Y and should get $50,000 more, or with some folks even more than that. And the only reason you see those big swings in difference is that you've got a seller who paid during the pandemic way too much. There's a lot of that going on. So have they seen significant drops? Absolutely. Absolutely. Have they seen 50%? No. They have not. And that is probably one of the worst. When I say worst, it's a beautiful community. I'm not knocking the community at all. But when I say worst, I'm talking about the sun, the moon, the stars, and Jupiter all lined up to create definitely a crash in that community. So not just people really, really wanting the golf. Everything went crazy. People wanted to golf. I had people flying in that were saying things like, I want to golf, especially people from New York and Chicago. They were just over what was going on in their cities. They were flying in with an unlimited budget and saying, I'll pay whatever, get me in a golfing community. I could not hit the golf for them at all. Not in bundled golf, not in equity golf, not in non-equity golf. I just couldn't get it done because there were long waiting lists. And Bonita National is a bundled golf community, so people were just buying everything up. They didn't care the price. That also happened with boats. Think about Cape Coral. People were buying real estate, whether it's a condo or a house, based on golf access. Golf meaning G-U-L-F, not G-O-L-F, which would be Bonita National. So people were buying based on the lifestyle they wanted to live, and it didn't matter. They were just going to pay the real estate price, whatever it is. I mean, come on, it's Southwest Florida. We can't lose money. That was the mindset. So let's go back to Bonita National for a minute here. That happened. Everybody wanted to golf. They bought up these bundled golf community condominiums. So then a few years later, as these beautiful communities were just packed with people, like right now, Bonita National, the pool is standing room only. It's a beautiful pool, but it is literally during season, you're just kind of standing next to each other. So and that's not fun. That's not what people are thinking of. Also, bundled golf, they play by the Chelsea point system. So the more you play, the more you can't play. So what can happen is folks come in January, February, March because they imagine this lifestyle that they're going to be swimming and doing laps in the pool and they're going to be golfing all day long, and they're not, because it's really crowded. On top of that happening in Bonita National and many other communities, the other thing that happened with Bonita National was that the fees went way up. That initial acquisition fee, they call it a transfer fee, that went up. All the fees for the community, and Bonita National has more fees, I would say, almost than any community that I've run across in Southwest Florida. Not in terms of how much, like the cost, although it is high, it's around $14,000 for the year, but also layer upon layer upon layer of fees. So what happened when that happened was that prices started to come down because people, they were just over the whole Florida experiment. They're like, yeah, it's been 3 years. I miss my home state. Things are better there. I'm going to go back. And now they're having trouble selling. Now we go back to the thought process that you can't differentiate your 2-bedroom, 2-bath golfing condominium from your neighbors. You all have the same view in the same space, so prices have to come down to a lot for that. That's happening in a lot of places. But is that happening to the tune of 50%? I'm going to give you a resounding no. Now, can I come up with a few places that it's close, like Bonita National? Yeah, I can. Bonita National, those 2-bedroom, 2-bath condos during the pandemic, they were going in the ballpark of 400, 425, and now they're about 300, 325. That's very significant. Is it half? No, but it's a good chunk. Here's the problem when somebody is screaming and yelling that things are going to drop by 50% without at least putting some information around that. Like I said, yes, there are deals out there. If you're looking for a deal, I can find you a deal. But can I find you something at 50% off and it's got a view of the Gulf of Mexico? No, I absolutely can't. Even if it was destroyed by the hurricane and it sit on Sanibel Island basically with floodwater in it, it is still not going to be at 50%. So what I don't want anybody thinking is that they invested their hard-earned money in something in Naples, Florida, in Tampa, Florida, and they're going to see that kind of reduction. Now, again, I say these things over and over because somebody misses it the first time. So for the back row, there are some places, particularly condominiums, where you're going to see 30-40% reduction. I can see them right now. That does not mean the area across the board is going to drop by 50%. It isn't. And if it was, listen, I'm going to trip you and race you to every property because we're going to buy all of them. So you might be thinking, Barrett, I know who that is. I know who that is out there saying that prices are going to go down by 50%. And that person is saying that it's due to the mortgage applications being super low. So listen, I've got a video coming for you. Stick around, make sure you subscribe because that is going to be the next video that comes out.